Tonight's presentation is on the Eleusinian Mysteries. The Eleusinian Mysteries were held once a year in honor of the goddess Demeter and her daughter Persephone. Celebrations took place at Eleusis in Greece. There were two initiations, one for the lesser mysteries and one for the greater mysteries. Aspirants had to pass the lesser mysteries before they could attempt the greater mysteries. The celebrations for the lesser mysteries took place in the spring, while the greater mysteries were held in the fall. This was due to the fact that the planting season began in the spring and ended with the fall harvest. The cult was the dominant secret society as it flourished for over 2,000 years. One of its drawing points was that all were allowed to enter, including slaves and freemen, as well as women. Thousands of individuals came to the festival from distant lands, and all were given a chance. Aspirants had only one opportunity to pass the test and become an initiate. If they failed, they did not get a second chance. Each initiate was required to pay a fee of 15 drachma, and they had to supply their own animals for sacrifice. The myth begins with Persephone wandering about in the meadows, picking flowers, when Hades, the king of the underworld, captures her and brings her to the world below. Meanwhile, the goddess Demeter is searching the earth for her daughter. She becomes so distraught that she holds back the rain from the crops. Zeus could hear the people crying out for help, so he sent Hermes to stop Demeter. Persephone eats 4 seeds while in the underworld, which means she cannot leave, as decreed by the fates. Nevertheless, Zeus gets involved and makes a deal with Hades. Persephone would spend part of the year on earth with her mother and the remainder below with Hades. Once Demeter had her daughter back, she returned the crops to perfect health, resulting in a bountiful harvest for all the people. There are several ways this myth can be interpreted. The first is that the rebirth of Persephone from the underworld symbolizes the immortality of the soul. Prior to the mysteries, it was thought that when one died, it was the end of existence. Now it was believed that even though went to the underworld, they could still rise up and live again. The second interpretation concerns itself with the 4 seasons and how they determine the time for planting. Now there were both hot and cold seasons. The first was conducive to agriculture, while the latter was not. In fact, the mysteries were held in the region that was named Agra, which coupled with the word cult gives the word agriculture. Harsh winters caused the fertility of the earth to diminish. This was attributed to the death of the sun, which caused the death of the crops. Nevertheless, the sun would rise up again in the springtime, where the return of warm weather meant the crops would grow once again. Now the days grew longer and the nights shorter, as opposed to winter, when the nights grow longer and the days grow shorter. Most religions contain the cycle of the seasons, whereby the sun god died on the winter solstice, but was returned again on the vernal equinox. Persephone represents the fertility of the earth, as her mother is the goddess of agriculture. Hades is the personification of the cold, dead winter that pulls the crops down from above to the world below. Likewise, he steals Persephone from above and brings her below. Thus the mysteries are a fertility rite of spring. But was this all the mysteries represented, or was there something else going on? The chronicles believe there was much more here than meets the eye. It was Persephone's abduction and release that were the source of the 4 seasons, summer, fall, winter, and spring, as denoted by the 2 solstices and the 2 equinoxes. Thus the myth is explaining cosmic order as depicted from the sky and on the earth. However, if we look closer to the story myth, we find that not only was Persephone kidnapped, she was also raped and ravished by Hades, her uncle. In some editions of the cycle, her father Zeus agreed with the abduction. Moreover, the incestuous relationship or behavior of the gods and goddesses is prevalent throughout Greek mythology. It also appears in the Judean Christian religions as well as others. Why do the gods act in such a lascivious manner and all across the board, not just in isolated circumstances? For now, the question remains unanswered, yet it is one of the questions the Chronicle seeks to answer. It seems as though sex had a large part to play. As Carl Jung stated, quote, alchemy exalted the most heinous transgression of the law, namely incest, into a symbol of the union of opposites, hoping in this way to bring back the golden age, end of quote. Now the question arises as to what was taught within the cult. Recall there was a lesser and a greater mystery. The higher mysteries were far different than the lesser. At least that is what we are told. There is a limited amount of evidence, as the cultists were not allowed to divulge anything that took place. They had to swear an oath not to reveal anything taught within the mysteries, subject to the penalty of death. There are recorded instances where this occurred. Today's Masons swear a similar oath of secrecy. Several days of preliminaries were experienced prior to the initiation. Finally, the aspirants marched to Elis on the road named the Secret Way. Upon reaching Elis, a festival took place. The initiates drank a special mixture of barley and kykeon, which has psychotropic effects. This raised the initiates' emotions and awareness to a heightened state. Whatever they saw was magnified and altered by the drugs. Next, the aspirants went down into an underground temple called the Telesterion. It was here where the mysteries were revealed. No one knows for sure what happened down below in the temple. Whatever was experienced, it kept thousands coming back for over 2,000 years. So what were the possibilities of what was revealed during the initiation? At the least would be a play that mimics the capture of Persephone. Now the question arises as to whether or not such a play would depict the rape of Persephone by Hades. If it did, were live individuals involved? We know that all through history such events took place, especially in ancient times. Since it was central to the myth, the chronicles believes that the rape was played out in real life. We also know that throughout the ancient world there were numerous rites and rituals that involved the high priestess engaging in sex with either a king, a surrogate king, or a god. This was especially true in Sumer and Babylon. Some of these rituals included human sacrifices and or sexual orgies of all those present at the ritual. Nonetheless, we do not know if such occurred at these initiations, but it remains a probability based on similar initiations and based on the fact that psychotropic drugs were being used. The priest and or priestesses wanted to produce an imprint that was not easily forgotten. Thus we find that the Eleusinian Mysteries did not offer any greater mysteries that led to a more fulfilled and spiritual being. We hear nothing about individuals that begin to teach others. Divine knowledge is to be given to all who want it. In the New Testament, and especially within a few of the Apocryphal books, there is much of this hidden knowledge of the greater mysteries as taught by Christ and others. The greater mysteries are not some special words that will open one to the secret teachings, nor are there rites, sacrifices, or rituals that need to be practiced. The mysteries express the method whereby one chooses to walk the inner path to enlightenment. One devotes his life, each and every thought, word, and deed, to progress upon the way as Christ and others have done. As we progress through the videos, we will come to see how all ancient and modern rituals were based on the same primal truth, that over time, and with the interpretation of many diverse nations, came to be incorrectly interpreted by those that did not have direct access to the truth. Many myths contain stories of wise men that would teach these truths to the people, but once they left, the truth left with them.